The Rock has come back to Grand
Rapids. If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy. This is the sexiest voice in podcasting today, Tim Jousma, welcoming you to this episode, and it is a very special episode. Why is that, you may ask? Because 3 years ago today, as I record this, we released our very first episode. And I will give myself a hand for that, yay. But yeah, not many podcasts reach that mark. I mean, earlier this year, we were lucky enough to reach our 100 episode mark, and we've done plenty of more since then, which is good. But yeah, 3 years, and a lot has happened. It's kind of hard listening back to the old episodes, but on occasion I do, which... not a knock against the old episodes or whatever, but I mean, it's a common thing you hear among anybody who creates something. Like if you ask the guys from South Park or The Simpsons, do they watch the early seasons? They will not only say they don't, they will say they're not that good, which, comparatively speaking to what they've been able to do over time, yeah, I get that, but, without those early episodes, we wouldn't have the better stuff later. But yeah, that first episode was wild. Like the first day we recorded, we ended up recording what became episodes 1, 2, and 3. That day I had worked until I believe about 5 o'clock, but I was so nervous about the recording that I didn't get much sleep. I'm a little notorious for not sleeping well because I'm the type of guy that just like it could be like 12:30 at night, and then I get an idea of, what does a cow think when a human moos at it? And what do I have to do? I have to go on Google for an hour and a half to find out what a cow thinks when a human moos. And before you know it, you're like, oh shit, it's 5 o'clock and I gotta be to work at 9. Yay! That was me that day. But, once we were able to we recorded at Sterling's, what we called a shack, but it wasn't a shack. It was a studio apartment, one room. And, but when he was 6'10", almost 7 feet tall. I'm 6'5", and a room like that, it's like, I'm reminded of that episode of The Simpsons, 22 short films about Springfield. At the end of the episode, that's when Nelson laughs at the guy in the car, the really small car, and then the guy gets out and he's super tall and he's like, "This is the only thing I could afford on my budget." And it's I'm sure Sterling would love a bigger house with bigger furniture, but hey, it is what it is. But once I got there, we recorded, and the adrenaline kicked in. We were able to have a good conversation with Maura for the first episode, and she even ended up yelling at traffic at the time, which was funny. And then after that concluded, Ray showed up, and we were able to record episodes 2 and 3 from there. But man, this show has taught me a lot, let me tell you, and taught me a lot about myself more than anything, because the theme of the show for me has always been about passion, but really what the show has ended up becoming is like a snapshot of me at a particular time, and that's not a bad thing. I'm still working to make sure this podcast is as good as it possibly can be. But if this is the limit of what my podcast can do and I die tomorrow, I will still consider this very much a massive success. So, for folks that have listened to us over the past 3 years now, we thank you so very much. Myself, anybody who's ever been associated with the show before. One person I got to thank right now, the Reverend Tracy. we heard finally in episode 100. It was her that actually came up with the name. We were initially going to call the show Talk Nerdy to Me, and we even had an idea of getting like a karaoke version of the Poison song Talk Dirty to Me, and Tracy was going to sing like special lyrics or something like that. But then we found out there was another podcast called Talk Nerdy to Me, which not as good as Friends Talking Nerdy though. And just Tracy and I were just brainstorming names, and that's what we came up with. So definitely have to thank her. And just lately the show, I think, I'll address it now. We've have been on a bit of a break for folks that are wondering. The reason for the break is just simply a move on my part. I moved from Vancouver back to Portland, Oregon, and the moment I moved back to Portland, Oregon, that's like in the heart of everything that's going on with the Black Lives Matter protest in downtown Portland, seeing the police overreach. If you live in Portland and you see the actions of what the police are doing on a nightly basis to citizens, with tear gassing residential neighborhoods nightly, it's you can't see this and still support the cops. Are there good people that work in the police department? Sure, but if the entire system is corrupt, it does not matter what good those people do. So Black Lives Matter, defund the police. We need something better than what we have, because, the cops can do whatever the fuck they want, and they're going to hurt people. And, also too, if you do live in Portland and you're hearing this, don't vote for Ted Wheeler in November. The guy's a jackass. So anyway, we moved here. Couple months moving everything together, but we got the studio set up. I call it a studio and whatnot. Great apartment. We got the cats here. Great place. But we're going to be getting everything back up and running here. I even forgot to finish off the Superman episodes, which I will definitely put those up again. But for the shows lately, ever since I started having I think it was like episode 77 when Kim officially joined the show, and from there, I think the show, in my opinion, got tons better, because how we did it in the past with the previous podcast hosts that I had, we had, with how I recorded the episodes, and with the fact that the previous podcast host had a space limit as to how much you could upload per month, we were in a bind where we really had to split the episodes up. And then with the amount of people that I was relying upon, just scheduling wise, I couldn't record every week. But once I was able to start recording every week, the quality of the shows got better. We've had some great episodes with Kim the Geek, of course. We got Professor Aubrey, who's fucking amazing. She's been on the show a lot. I mean, I never thought I would bake a cake on this podcast, and look what I did. I helped Aubrey. I didn't bake the cake. I helped Aubrey bake the cake. I was the assistant, and it was one hell of a fucking cake. You can see pictures of it on our social media and whatnot. But this show's going to keep on chugging along. Life may happen, and there may be times where I got to take some time off like I did the past couple of months, but we are not going anywhere. We do thank each and every one of you that has taken the time to listen to our show. Thank you. We thank you so much, and we hope you keep on listening. Now, I would like to do something special here. Normally, I like to have other people on the show because, with friends, plural, talking nerdy, I like the interchange between two or more people when they're talking. But I figure since it's just going to be me today, I wanted to kind of commemorate what we've done with the show. I thought I'd do something a little different, and what I've done is come up with a playlist that I wanted to go through. The playlist, the theme is really, it's just my top 25 favorite hard rock and metal songs, and want to go through the list. It's not like, the Casey Kasem Top 20 Countdown. It's not like officially ranked or anything like that, so the first track that I name off is not going to be number 25 on the list. To me, they're all great songs. They're all stuff that you can pop in your car, or just if you're working out or something like that. I don't know. I've always loved hard rock and metals ever since I was a kid. Just, one it's the type of music that, similar to like horror action movies, it gets you into a mood. You can create a persona. You can live outside yourself, I guess. And in metal and hard rock, when it's at its absolute best, fucking jams. I mean, you're grooving, you're dancing, you're doing everything. So again, just like to go through my list here and tell you my top 25 picks. I will make sure that this playlist is available on our social media platforms. So if any of these choices do pique your interest, definitely give them a listen. And if you're a fan of hard rock and metal, more than likely you've probably heard most of the stuff already. But if you haven't, music's music. Music for me, one reason I've started featuring music more when Kim the Geek started being on the show, is that music is kind of a language in its own way. You can learn a lot about somebody by the type of music that they like. So with that, let's go through the Friends Talking Nerdy 3-year celebration playlist. The first track on the list was a band I actually got to see live in 1999. It was a reunion concert they were doing, and that band was Black Sabbath with Ozzy Osbourne. The song, Symptom of the Universe. I tried to pick some songs from artists. I mean, a lot of these artists can be big name artists. I tried to steer clear of the obvious choices, because you think of Black Sabbath, most people who put on Paranoid, and Paranoid is a great song. But that's not the only song they did. They did a lot of songs that were a lot better than Paranoid, and Paranoid is a classic, and Symptom of the Universe is definitely on that list. If I were making a movie, this is a song I would have as kind of like a car chase scene, because the riff, Tony Iommi's riff, I mean, my God, what a, it's dirty, it's simple, it's filthy, but it's great, and just Ozzy being Ozzy. I mean, because the way the song is made, you can kind of tell that they made it for it's, because we've talked about on the past with other albums, how some bands will make a song and intend for that song to be utilized in a live atmosphere, and you can picture that with this, because if you've ever seen Ozzy in concert, he's very unique as a showman. In fact, Henry Rollins has a great bit about Ozzy and how he is on stage, but this song just fucking kicks ass. So definitely give that a listen. The next song, one of my favorite bands, Judas Priest. This is a song that came out in 1990, and it's a song called Painkiller. Another great car chase song. It's like if you're ever in a shootout with the police and you're in a car chase or something like that, you put this song on, my God, it fucking kicks. And, starts off with a great drum fill, and just it has two of my favorite Priest guitar solos, which says a lot, because KK Downing is one hell of a guitar player, but man, this song is just fucking intense, and the video. I would say this, if you have a history of epilepsy, of seizures, this is one video you do not want to watch, because it's mostly in black and white, but it's just a lot coming at you. It's flash, 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 and whatnot. But really good song, definitely recommend it. The next song on the list, had to include this, Joan Jett, Bad Reputation. Joan Jett is a legend for a reason. She was in the group The Runaways with Lita Ford in the 70s, and then in the 80s she kind of broke free, did her own thing with Joan Jett and the Blackhearts. She's a rock legend. I mean, as simple as that. I mean, she, just if anybody has the argument of women cannot do rock and roll or hard rock music, you put this song on and then you punch that person in the face. Bad Reputation, kick-ass song. I know a lot. It came back into prominence a couple years back when Ronda Rousey showed up in the WWE, and I believe Ronda Rousey actually used that song when she was in the UFC as well. But the Bad Reputation, during her WrestleMania match, they actually had Joan Jett play the song live at WrestleMania, so that was cool that Joan was able to get that outreach for her work. Now the next song on the list is from a band called White Zombie. This has a special musician. Excuse me. It wouldn't be an episode of Friends Talking Nerdy if I'm not hiccuping or coughing or whatever, so sorry about that. But this song right here features Iggy Pop, it is a song called Black Sunshine. Another car chase song. I love the songs that, yeah. I mean, if you're gonna have a car chase song, this is another good one here. And you could tell even in the '90s when you listen to this, it does kind of, you can see, even by listening to the music, you can see that Rob was very much a visually minded musician. And you could see why he was able to make the transition to being a movie director so easily, because of this song. Because in a lot of ways, it feels like a trailer to an old Grindhouse movie, if that makes sense. So definitely give this one a listen. And it features Iggy Pop. How can you go wrong with Iggy Pop? I mean, Michigan native guy who is essentially was one of the people that helped plant the seeds for what became heavy metal. So, can't go wrong there. The next song from Motley Crue, it's called Looks That Kill, off the Shout at the Devil album. This song right here means a lot to me, because I, as I mentioned on the show, I'm a writer, and with the book I wrote, there was a character by the name of Annie Walker that I created, and I was having a tough time kind of imagining her until this song came on, because the first time I heard this song, I pictured in my head the very first scene that I put her in the book. She was walking on a city street, walking to a public garage, and she was going to meet somebody to kill them. And just great song, great album. The Shout at the Devil alone is, could have easily been on this list, but, wanted to do something a little different. The video for Looks That Kill doesn't age that well, and it's like the lyrics are in the video are like two different things. I mean, because the lyrics are kind of make the woman in question sound like a badass, but then the women in the video were just all subservient and scared of Motley Crue, because Motley Crue had fire, ooh, type of thing. But still, great song. Definitely give it a listen. I know when I was a kid, Motley Crue, when I started enjoying music, I started really blossoming as a music listener in about 87, 88, and that was right around the time Motley Crue was kind of softening up a little. They did stuff like Home Sweet Home, and just did not care for that. But don't sleep on their early albums, because the album before this, before Shout at the Devil, had Livewire, and Motley Crue could kick some major ass. So definitely give that song a listen. The next one is from a little band called Rage Against the Machine. This is going to be an obvious one here. It's Bulls on Parade. There's a number of Rage songs that I could have picked, but Bulls on Parade just had to be it. I think back to when I first got the rock band. I think it was either Rock Band or Guitar Hero. It may have been Guitar Hero. But it was one of those games that Tom Morello guessed on. I think it was Guitar Hero. And I was playing it at home. My oldest was about 8 or 9 at the time. And, the part where because like in the game, if you're playing the story mode, there's a part where Tom Morello comes out on stage as a guest guitarist, and then they start playing Bulls on Parade. And when I'm playing Bulls on Parade, my son Isaac, who's 18 now, living on his own with his girlfriend making computers, my God, I'm old. But when he heard this song, he just started dancing, just jumping around and all that stuff. And it was just like, I felt like a Jehovah's Witness passing a pamphlet off to another person. I spread the gospel of hard rock and heavy metal to my children. I felt so good that day. It was so good. I loved it. But definitely a song you got to listen to. One of my favorite albums from Rage Against the Machine is actually the last one they did, The Battle of Los Angeles, which, for my money, I would probably rank up there as one of the best albums of the 90s. But this song right here, you cannot go wrong. The next song, so I guess you can kind of categorize them as a one-hit wonder. They're still very much active today, but if you ask the casual music fan, name a song from this band, they're going to name this particular one right here 9 times out of 10. That's the band Living Colour, the song Cult of Personality, and just Vernon Glover on guitar. My God. It's a shame that they really only had the chance to have make it big, worldwide with I mean, this is a great song, but it's like you hear him on guitar and it's just like and obviously they made more records, I'm not saying that, but just these guys should have been bigger than what they ended up being. I mean, they're still playing music, they're still doing their thing, and that's great, and that is great. But it's like of all the bands that should have made it big, it's like they should have been one of them. And Cult of Personality is an absolute classic. And thinking back recently, without even realizing it, that was the first time I actually heard Malcolm X talk, because at the start of the song, there's a vocal clip, and for the longest time I didn't know who that was, but I found out it was Malcolm X, and that was cool. But from what I understand, I guess Mick Jagger had a hand in getting them a record deal or something like that, but definitely check them out, they're very good. The next song, AC/DC. Had to include some AC/DC on here, because when you think of hard rock, who else are you going to think of? Now, some folks may complain that, with AC/DC, they sound alike, because, I mean, they're, AC/DC doing a ballad, I would never want to hear that, but for basic hard rock, just they're so good. I mean, the song I chose is the second album that Brian Johnson did with the band. It's the title track, For Those About to Rock, We Salute You. Everything I like in the song. It has a great car chase moment near the end of the song. Kind of builds up, and it has explosions. You cannot go wrong with explosions in a song, and this song right here just means a lot. It means a lot too, because there's when I write, I a lot of times will listen to music to kind of get into a mood, and sometimes if I'm listening to a particular song, it can kind of inspire scenes. And there's a scene that when I listen to this song that I see in my head that I'm going to prepare for my third book. The first book is available on Smashwords. It's called Time to Play the Game, but that third book in the series that I'm writing will feature a scene that is directly inspired by the middle part of this song. But definitely give this a listen. The next song on the list here is once again from Black Sabbath, but it's from the Dio version of Black Sabbath. I tried to make sure I had different. I didn't choose like 5 Black Sabbath albums, tracks, 6 Metallica tracks, or anything like that. I tried to vary it up here, but when you have a band that has 2 different lead singers that are so unique in their own ways, it's kind of like the Van Halen question. I mean, they're really 2 separate bands, even though they have the same name. In this case, Black Sabbath. Once they got Dio on board, they were able to do some things that they could not do with Ozzy. And this song is Neon Nights. I actually heard this the day Dio died, because when Dio was alive, he seemed like a nice guy. From everything I heard, he was a nice guy, but at the time, I just wasn't really interested in his music. Holy Diver and Holy Diver in Rainbow in the Dark, of course, were good songs, but just I thought back to the videos. I think it was Holy Diver, but when Dio was pretending to be a sword and sorcery guy, and he's like 4'3" with a hairy chest, and he's balding up top with a sword, and it just didn't look good for the 80s. It doesn't look good now, but that I feel bad because of that I did not take the time to do a deeper dive into his music, and I totally missed out on Neon Nights. My God, I mean, if you listen to Ozzy era Black Sabbath and then you put on Neon Nights, again, totally different sound, but it's really good, just hard charging, just another good car chase song. You cannot go wrong with a good car chase song. We'll go on to the next one here. The next one, speaking of Ozzy, we're going to bring up Ozzy here. It's from my favorite Ozzy album of the 90s. It was the first album he released in the 90s, No More Tears. It's the title track. The reason I picked this one, this was the first time that I had the chance to hear Zakk Wylde play guitar. And the guitar solo in this song, my God, it's so good, it'll put hair on your chest. It's just that good, because in the past, with other guitarists that Ozzy had used during a solo period, like Randy Rhoads, they tended to use like Fender type of guitars, and Fenders are great guitars, but they do have a kind of a lighter sound, whereas Zakk Wylde tends to prefer like the Gibson Les Paul. For folks that don't know what a Les Paul is, if you think of Jimi Hendrix or Slash from Guns N' Roses, they play Gibson Les Pauls. It's kind of a thicker guitar and kind of has a deeper, thicker bassy-ish type of sound. Really good guitar for solos like this. But No More Tears, really, really good song off a classic Ozzy album, probably his last meaningful album. Not to knock anything he's done since then, but this is probably the last album that people actually... It's similar to like the Rolling Stones. We brought it up in the past when we talked about the Rolling Stones with Tattoo You in 1980. That was probably the last time that they were relevant as musicians, in terms of being able to inspire people and whatnot, which is not to knock what they've done afterwards, but every artist has reaches a peak and then goes down, and they went down after that. In terms of just not being as relevant as they used to be, just because new bands come along. It's as simple as that. It's not a knock against them, but give this song a listen. The next song, when I heard this, it blew my mind. It's from Led Zeppelin, because when I moved into my first apartment, it was a studio apartment in Heritage Hill District in Grand Rapids, and in downtown, it's probably not there anymore, but there was this old used record shop that was just off of Fulton and Division, and the guy who owned it just would sit in there all day, would fart a lot, and just... I guess it's his shop. He can fart if he wants, but that shop, it ended up teaching me a lot about music overall. And I'd been a fan of Led Zeppelin before, but I'd only really heard Led Zeppelin 3 and 4. I didn't hear too many other leader tracks. So when I bought the album Presence from Led Zeppelin, I didn't expect too much until I put on the first track, Achilles' Last Stand. My God, this song blew me away. Just Presence will probably not go down as the best Led Zeppelin album, but you don't sleep on it, because with songs like Achilles' Last Stand on there, it's probably the hardest album, one of the hardest albums that they've done. This rivals kind of what Metallica did. There's a lot of, you could tell, there's a lot of thrash metal was influenced by this song in a big way, so give this song a listen. All right. The next song on the track, I did briefly mention it already, but we'll talk about it a little bit more. From Dio, Rainbow in the Dark. I do like the fact that the new Thor movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, will apparently feature Rainbow in the Dark. But like I said, when Dio passed away, that was the impetus for me to kind of do a deep dive on his music and kind of get a better appreciation for what he was. And from all accounts, Dio was a really, really nice guy. And, the type of guy that if you were to walk past him and say, "Hey, Dio, how you doing?" he would stop, shake your hand, talk to you, and just make you feel like you mattered, which, not all artists do. Which in some ways I get. Because I know, like, William Shatner, for instance, complains about people begging him for autographs. And I get that. Because if you put yourself in his shoes, you get tons and hundreds of people, can I get an autograph? Can I get an autograph? And, thinking positively here, not everybody asking him for an autograph is looking to sell it on eBay. They're freaking out because it's Captain Kirk. They see him, they're getting emotional, and they want to see it. But it's like I can see both sides here. But Dio, from what it sounds, was a really, really good guy, really nice guy. And Rainbow in the Dark, come on, you're driving on the highway, you crank this song up, you're gonna be pumping your fists in the air and just singing along with it. And what a voice! And Dio is the guy who created the devil horns. It's an old Italian hand gesture. They call, I guess his grandmother did it to ward off evil spirits. It's called the Maloik. And he was, even though Gene Simmons will tell you he was the one who created it, it was Dio who created the devil horns. And he used it as kind of a hand signal in a way, kind of like professional wrestlers use hand signals, like the NWO back in the day would put up the 4 life with their hands, and the 4 horsemen would come out holding up the 4 fingers, when they posed for promos and whatnot. But still, give this song a chance here. The next one on the list, Mr. Alice Cooper, You can't go wrong with this track here. My son Luke's favorite song, School's Out. My son Luke does not like school at all. He is autistic, so he does have some learning challenges, and it happens to everybody, but, he just has not had a good time in school, let's put it that way. Watching his reaction, hearing this song, it was like a religious experience for him, because he's like, yeah, blow up the school, and just this is a great song because Alice was able to kind of capture the spirit of childhood. What do I mean by that? It's that feeling of when you're in like elementary school, junior high, or whatever, and you just want school to end. You hate it. You hate your classmates. You hate your teacher. Your teacher's stupid. And you just want to get to summer vacation so you can go to your grandma's house, or you can watch, like in my case, you can watch Late Night with David Letterman, or you can watch wrestling when your mother's not home, because my mother hated wrestling. She would love to watch Full House or the Golden Girls a lot, and my sister dancing and singing the Golden Girls. Anyway, School's Out. Great song. Another song that's similar to this in a lot of ways in terms of capturing that feeling that kids get, if you think about it, is from DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince. Parents Just Don't Understand. In a lot of ways, these two, the School's Out and Parents Just Don't Understand, have a lot in common. And it says a lot about, for School's Out, how good Alice is. That's another thing, too. The song was actually used in the Robert Rodriguez film, The Faculty. And there's a great scene. The Faculty had Elijah Wood in it. This is the film he did before The Lord of the Rings. But there was a great scene where, because the teachers in that school were aliens, and halfway through, Elijah's turns a corner, is running in slow motion down the hallway. This song is playing in the background, and there's an alien creature chasing after Elijah Wood, and just perfect moment, perfect song, great song. Now we're going to move on to our next one here. That is Aerosmith. This is a song I've actually mentioned on the show before. This is one of my favorite videos. But in the 80s, Aerosmith had put out a box set with Columbia Records called Pandora's Box. And all Pandora's Box was just a collection of a lot of the songs that they did with Columbia, because in the 80s at that time they were signed with Geffen Records, but the Pandora's Box allowed them to kind of celebrate what they did in the past. And what they did is kind of did a video for Sweet Emotion, and that video blew my mind, because again, just hearing Aerosmith at their absolute best. I mean, they were on a roll to begin with in the 80s. Pump and Permanent Vacation are probably two of the best hard rock albums of the 80s, bar none. But just hearing, the fact that they were that good for that long. I mean, that song went back to the 70s for them, and the bass line, perfect. You can't go wrong with it. It's Aerosmith. You can't go wrong with it. Put on Sweet Emotion, especially. Again, a lot of good thing about metal too is that a lot of these songs are great for the car. Sometimes there's some music that fits for particular moods, like a lot of like love songs, for instance. You're not going to listen to a love song if you're pumping yourself up to go exercise or something like that. But if you are with your significant other or something like that, and you want to get in the mood, then of course you're going to put on some Marvin Gaye or something like that. Same thing with hard rock. If you want to get yourself pumped up or whatever, or just up there. I mean, you put on. Here we go, making noise. That was me hitting my hand against the table here at our new studios, by the way. Anyway, enough of me rambling. Let's go on to the next song. The next song, Metallica. This is the first song I ever heard from Metallica. It was thanks to Headbangers Ball. Headbangers Ball, for folks that don't know, was a show that came on Saturdays, I believe, at midnight on MTV, and it was really the only time that MTV played any sort of hard rock, really metal songs. Sometimes they would do some hard rock like Guns N' Roses, because I know one of the hosts of Headbangers Ball, Ricky Rackman, I guess, was a friend of Axl. But this song right here kind of scared me when I first heard it, and it's One. and I've talked about it on before, talked about it on the show before, but just it was different. It scared me at the time when I first saw it, just because it was different. Because, I mean, if you think about it, in the 80s, rock bands looked a certain way. Now, while you had some bands that did feel real, like Guns N' Roses, they were still very much molded in the same mix that brought forth bands like Motley Crue or bands like, you know, Aerosmith in the 70s and whatnot. It was the same type of formula, whereas Metallica was completely different. Now, you know, because of this song, it gave me a much deeper appreciation for what the heavier aspects of metal could offer. And, you know, years later, you know, digging deeper into Metallica's catalog, it actually opened my ears up to other bands that I wouldn't necessarily have sought out in the first place, like the next band on the list here. It's actually a song that we've talked about on the show before, so I won't go into it too much, but that's Sacrifice from Motorhead. There are so many Motorhead songs I could put on here, but just Sacrifice, it's one of their best songs. If it's not their top greatest hit song ever, it's definitely in the top 5. All right, the next song from there, Pantera, Walk. Pantera, a lot of great songs from that band. Speaking of Black Sabbath earlier, my friend Chris and I, when we went to see Black Sabbath, Pantera actually opened up for them. So, considering how Pantera broke up and the tragic murder of Dimebag Darrell, being able to say that I saw such a legendary band, in action, I'm glad I got to experience that. But Walk, so fucking intense. I mean, a lot of songs. I mean, Pantera is not going to come out with like a ballad anytime. It was not ever going to come out with a ballad or anything like that. But just this is a great distillation of what anger sounds like. And, that's another thing about heavy metal or hard rock music, is the fact that, and I'm very much in this group, a lot of times the fans of this particular music are not the best at expressing their emotions. And a lot of times listening to intense music like this can help you work out those emotions. And to me, that is a very healthy thing. And that's the beauty of what songs like this can do. It's like, if you're really pissed off and angry, instead of doing something destructive, put this song on and just let it envelop you. It's kind of like a shot of adrenaline. It's like audio caffeine. This will perk you up. All right, the next song on our list, from a legendary band. This band, in a way, is kind of schizophrenic, because they would go from metal, they would go from traditional rock, they would go to old show tunes, they would go to pop music, they would do a lot, and that rockabilly too. We're talking about Queen, and the song here, Stone Cold Crazy. I first heard this song from Metallica's cover of it, which is a good cover, but this is their cover was pretty much done along the same lines as what Queen did. And for me, a good cover song is one that can kind of make their song their own, similar to what Jimi Hendrix did with All Along the Watchtower. You associate that song with Jimi Hendrix, even though it's a Bob Dylan song, or like the Monkees with I'm a Believer. When you hear that song, you're not thinking of Neil Diamond, who wrote that song. You're thinking of Mickey Dolenz saying "I'm a Believer," and kind of the same thing. But it's here. This is a case where the original is going to be better, and I think Metallica would be the first to admit that too. But Stone Cold Crazy, just Brian May as a guitar player, there's not enough that can be said. And also, too, one thing to keep in mind: a lot of their earlier tracks. A lot of their earlier songs are more heavy. Like the Sheer Heart Attack album, the title track "Sheer Heart Attack," just intense, kind of in its way, kind of like a speed metal type of track. And definitely recommend giving that a listen. Now, the next one here is one I've only discovered recently, but I've been aware of the lead singer of this band since the 80s. The song is called Personality Crisis. It's from the New York Dolls. The lead singer of that band is David Johansen, and The band, the New York Dolls, ended up inspiring a lot of folks. Professor Aubrey reminded me today that Morrissey, he was definitely a big New York Dolls fan and was, I guess, the president of the New York Dolls UK fan club. I know Kiss was directly inspired by the New York Dolls. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people are like in my position here to where it's like hardcore music fans are aware of the New York Dolls, but they don't necessarily have the broader reach as to the impact that they made. I mean, because whether it be impacting the bands like I mentioned or some of the people that have been in the band, like I found out the lead singer of the band Wasp, Blackie Lawless, he for a brief time, it wasn't any long tenure or anything like that, but he was in the New York Dolls for a bit. There's a song I heard recently from Wasp. One of their more infamous songs is called Animal Fuck Like a Beast. And my God, it's funny, but, it's like if sex were treated like a WWE event, I would want that to be my theme song. And a lot of people are listening to this now. I'm like, ew, but fuck you. That's going to be my theme song. Anyway. Next song on the track, we're going to go back to some Iggy Pop and the Stooges. Michigan's got to represent here. This is a song of theirs called Search and Destroy, and my God, just the opening, it just vicious guitars. It doesn't have the virtuoso player like the band didn't have like a Jimmy Page type of guitar player, meaning that, you didn't have like a 40-minute guitar solo or anything like that, but just. In a lot of ways, this was the inspiration for metal. It was the inspiration for punk. It was the inspiration for harder rock that's out there today. A lot of bands owe Iggy Pop and the Stooges a lot for what they did. And just listen to this song. It's a great song. Now, the next song on the list is going to be the favorite of a good friend of mine, Karen Street. How you doing, Karen? That is from a band called Kiss. From their Creatures of the Night album. It is a song called I Love It Loud. I'll put it like this. I'm a fan of their early work. Up to the album Revenge. Anything after that, that's essentially when they gave up and became a touring act more than anything. But this was kind of like an end of an era song for them, because Creatures of the Night was the last album they did before they took off the face paint during the 80s, and this is the last album that Peter Criss and Ace Frehley both had a part in. In fact, in the video for I Love It Loud, Ace Frehley is actually playing guitar, even though he didn't play guitar on the original track. G and Paul are assholes towards those two, and they treated them like employees instead of full-fledged creative members of the band. Now, having said that, Ace and Paul both freely admitted that, due to substance abuse, they weren't the most reliable, blah, 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 but, you can still be respectful, and, G and Paul were not, but doesn't mean that this is a bad song. I Love It Loud is another great song that, I love listening to this with, like, ear pods in, just, with the drum kicking, the doom, doom, really good song, really good fun video. I think I even featured the audio version of Beavis and Butthead commenting on this video on the show before, but definitely give this a listen. The next one on the list here, one of my favorite videos from the 90s. It's from Lenny Kravitz. Are You Gonna Go My Way? It was a song I recently found out is about Jesus, oddly enough. And if you think about the lyrics, it makes sense. But when I first heard this, for a brief second, I thought that we were listening to before the vocals kicked in, of course. I thought we were listening to like an unearthed Jimi Hendrix track or something like that. And just the video, just what a great song. Just it's not the greatest song in human history by any means. Not trying to imply that, but you can't help but like this song. It makes you feel good. It makes you want to move. It makes you want to dance. And it's a great song. Give this a listen. All right, we're almost done here. We got 3 more tracks on this special playlist for our 3-year anniversary to discuss. The next track here is from Van Halen, from the David Lee Roth era, from the album 1984. It's the song I'll Wait. And I don't know why, but I really love this song. I mean, it's different than a lot of what you would expect from David Lee Roth vocals. And just the music. I mean, when you have Eddie Van Halen, you're shocked that he's playing another instrument instead of the instrument that he's most well known for. But even his guitar solo in the song was really good. It's just a really, really good song, a really fun song as well. Kind of a little bit of a slower song, but kind of mood music. I mean, you could almost picture it being played on in the 80s. It could have easily been on like Miami Vice because like in Miami Vice, what they would do is take songs like In the Air Tonight from Phil Collins, and like one segment on the show would be like Crockett and Tubbs like investigating stuff, and you wouldn't hear them talking, you would just hear the song play while they're like driving or beating up suspects or something like that. And I'll Wait could have easily been another one of them. Alright, the next track here had to include some grunge because it is very much hard rock as well. So we gotta go with Nirvana here, but not going with one that most folks would put at the top of their list. It's from Nevermind, and I picked Territorial Pissings. I don't know why I like that, but more than well, I'll put it this way. A big reason I enjoy it, I guess, is just it's fast, it's intense, and the Chris Novoselic, come on people now, smile on your brother, everybody get together, and then it kicks into Kurt playing the really fast guitar and whatnot. Just really, really good song. One of the underrated tracks off of Nevermind, and Nevermind, of course, is will go down as one of the greatest albums in history because of tracks like this. Why do I say that? Because even though Territorial Pissings will never be tops on a list of people's favorite Nirvana song, the fact that they could take what is essentially a throwaway song and still make it as good says a lot about them. Anyway, last track on the list. Won't go into too much detail about this because it is one that we have discussed before, but it's from The Who. Won't Get Fooled Again. I mean, I think back to the concert movie they did, The Kids Are All Right, and I talked in the past about how impactful it was seeing that performance, seeing Pete kind of skid along at the end when Roger's screaming, and being able to see them live in concert. That was fucking amazing as well. I mean, if you get a chance to see a legend in concert, a legendary artist do their thing, take advantage of that. I mean, I think back to 95, 96 in Grand Rapids. I remember at DeVos Hall, Ray Charles came to town. And at the time, I thought, fuck that. Why would I want to see the guy who's in the Diet Coke commercial sing? I didn't know his musical history. I feel so foolish now, and I could have had a chance to see him. Would he have been at his absolute best? Of course not, but still, Ray Charles at his absolute worst is going to be a lot better than most other people at their very best. So if you get a chance to see any legends in concert, do that, because being able to say I saw Roger Daltrey and Pete Townsend do their thing, that's an experience I'll never forget. So with that, another episode of Friends Talking Nerdy is in the books. Thank you all for listening. Wow, 3 years. I can't believe it. We made it 3 years. We're going to keep on chugging along here. Like I said at the start, this podcast has meant a lot to me in terms of how I've been able to express myself, how I've been able to interact with other people. It's opened my ears to music I may not have listened to before, and enjoy. It's allowed me to also, since we've been talking about music and critiquing it, it's kind of helped me crystallize what I like in a critique and what I don't like in a critique. Overall, I just like being able to say, I have a podcast, and yeah, my goodness, 3 years. I got a little shot of whiskey right here that I poured. I'm not a big drinker or anything like that, but I think for 3 years you had to take a little bit of a shot. So with that, 3 years to many, many more. I thank you all for listening. Smooth. Anyway, that's it. We are done here. Thank you again for the 900th time. thank you for listening. We hope you will tune in again. Follow us on social media at FGNerdy. And that's it. And remember,
it's such a good feeling to know you're alive. It's such a happy feeling. You're growing inside, and when you wake up ready to say, I think I'll make a snappy new day. It's such a good feeling, a very good feeling. The feeling you know that I'll be back when the day is new. And I'll have more ideas for you. And you'll have things you'll want to talk about. I will too. You always make each day such a special day. You know how? By just your being you. Only one person in the whole world like you. That's you yourself. I'll be back next time. Bye-bye.
Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy on iTunes, the Google Play Music Store, as well as Spotify. Remember to support Friends Talking Nerdy on Patreon. Goodbye, darling.